The Cabinet Secretary in charge of Education, Professor George Magoha, has announced that junior secondary school will be offered in both boarding and day secondary schools across the country under the competency-based curriculum. Magoha's statement comes in the wake of an early week statement by the Assistant Director of Secondary School Education that all grades 7 to 10 learners would transit into secondary school as day scholars, and thus the question of boarding capacity in the already existing schools would not be an issue as the system prepares to absorb a double intake in January of 2023. Leila Mohammed on the mixed messages coming out of the Ministry of Education.
In the last few days, different statements by officials from the Ministry of Education have got many Kenyan parents worried about how their grade 6 pupils would transition into junior secondary school and how the ministry is prepared to absorb the numbers without facing difficulties. In his statement, Professor George Magoha sought to clarify the government's position over the matter, stating that all existing boarding and day secondary schools will admit learners transiting from grade 6 to 7 under the CBC based on guidelines to be provided by the ministry. In a meeting earlier in the week, senior ministry officials had stated that pupils in grades 7 through 10 would all be day scholars in junior secondary classes domiciled in secondary school facilities. The officials also stated that the selection of the pupils would be based on performance records, the zone in which they undertook their primary education, in order to not move them far away from their homes. Magoha also says that the MOE has identified 1,500 primary schools that will host junior secondary because they have adequate facilities and land for physical expansion. Some of these schools, according to Magoha, will be developed further to have full-fledged secondary wing in the future. With just about 10,000 public secondary schools across the country, there will be need for schools to create infrastructure like dormitories, laboratories, dining halls, libraries and sports facilities to be able to accommodate the about 1.4 million children expected to move into the secondary school system in each academic year and cohort. The government says that it is constructing 10,000 classrooms in schools and has already rolled out training of 60,000 teachers to prepare them to handle learners who will be transitioning from primary to secondary school next year. The government says it has sought to assure parents and their children that the implementation of CBC is on course and that systems and structures for transitioning are in place. However, education experts have expressed concerns on various issues that they note will become a bigger challenge if the government does not come out clearly to give direction on. Most are worried about the capacity of the schools to accommodate the 2.4 million pupils, the readiness of the teachers to teach the students, and the availability of learning material and other aspects like internet connectivity to enable all Kenyan children from wherever they are studying from to have an equal opportunity to study. Leila Mohammed, NTV.